Welcome to Brunch with Besties podcast.
Hey guys,
I'm Sherry Renee.
and I am Chanel.
Our mission is to heal and help others as we heal and help ourselves through purpose driven conversations.
Yep.
Happy Monday.
It's Monday, another go round. Here we are.
It's, it is definitely Monday. Today we have a special guest here with us. We have Demetri Beekman. He is going to be telling us about his amazing book that just came out called Teaching in the Wilderness. You can say hi, Demetri.
What's happening, everybody?
Welcome.
Absolutely welcome. Thank you for coming. We can't wait to get into the content of this book. So, before we get into that, we're going to start like we always do. So, first on the menu is always a toast. So, Bestie, who are you toasting to today?
I'm going to give my toast to the Center for Urban Teaching. So over the weekend, I had the opportunity to present to some fresh face new teachers. So those who are wanting to be educators, whether that's their route in college or not. But it was just a group of young people. And I got to present cultural sensitivity to them. And by no means am I expert on culture and what that means. I just thought that that was something important for new teachers to learn about and know, especially teachers who want to teach in urban environments. So yeah, I was given a really great opportunity to co-host this with a colleague of mine that I worked with over the summer. So we were co-leaders together. So it was just awesome. We were like geeked about it. Like, oh my God, we just did that. So it was a good time.
No, that's awesome and very fitting for today's topic.
I know,
Might
right?
I add?
Yes, very fitting. So yes, the spirit of Demetri was with me all weekend, and even today I had to do some PD at work today by myself. So yes, I was feeling teaching in the wilderness all day.
All day, all day.
Yes.
So, Demetri, who are you toasting to today?
I'm gonna toast my wife, who is downstairs right now, whipping it up in the kitchen. You know, I got the aroma coming upstairs into the office, and she's down there cooking and cleaning and making sure that I'll be taken care of after this podcast. So she prayed for me before coming on here, so that's my partner. So I gotta toast my baby.
Oh, that's so sweet. Hey, Maria.
Yes. Shout out Mrs. Beekman up there whipping in the kitchen.
Whipping it up, okay? Whipping it up. No, I love Maria. Shouts out to Maria. And I need to tell her thank you for letting us borrow you today.
Right. Yes.
No, but I love Maria. She is amazing. And I do expect a plate. No, I'm joking. I am joking.
Hilarious.
I'm gonna give my toast to my niece. You
Okay.
know, she just fills me with so much joy. That's what 3 year olds do. They just remind you about things that really matter, right? Like you think some things are just so important and you're all frustrated about something. And they just appreciate all the simple things, all the little things, which is, like I said, the things that really matter. And they're sponges and parrots, right? They absorb and repeat.
Yeah.
So it just makes you conscious of what it is that you're teaching them, which is again very appropriate for today's topic. So shouts out to my niece and shouts out to Maria.
There we go. Pumpkin. Hey, Mrs. Beekman.
And I'm gonna try to call you Dimitri during this podcast. I feel like I'm gonna end up saying Beekman, then I'm gonna go to Beak,
Right. Any of those names is cool. I'm cool with any of them. That's cool.
But now we are going to break bread. So let's check in. So I'll start with my bestie. What's going on? How are you doing?
I'm well. I'm a little tired. Yesterday, my son had some basketball games that took me late into the evening. And I'm like, why are these games so late? And he's 12. Like, what are we doing? It's not real just yet, but I guess it was real. But then I woke up today. We had professional development, like I mentioned earlier, at work today, and I had to lead it, by myself, which is what I normally do, or I'll like outsource it through another company. But today I was just like, I want to touch my teachers and, talk to them and have conversations. So we had a really good time of planning for next year, some things that they wanted. Had them watch a TED Talks about how to help students in the classroom with social emotional activities. So it was just a really great time. And I woke up like pumped, and I'm like, I don't know why, but maybe this was why, like having this conversation with you all tonight really fired me up to be ready for my staff earlier. So That's what's going on. Just trying to get through the rest of this week and praying that we can travel. But yeah, that's really what's going on.
All right, well, you pumped and ready to go. Brr, 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 brr.
I was ready. Yes.
Right. Okay. Well, get us hyped in on this Monday.
Right.
Right.
Show out with your PD.
Monday is a popping day. We changing the narrative.
I know that's right. You got to get excited on Mondays.
There we go.
So, Beekman, how are you doing? What's going on with you?
Oh, I'm just happy because we were finally able to get back into the schools, and give some of my colleagues some time. I sent out so I'm the director of equity and educator development for the school district of Waukesha. So I was able to schedule a time. I want to be in every school in Waukesha in the month of February. So I sent emails to my principal colleagues, letting them know, look, I'm gonna give you an hour so you can go to another colleague's school to visit, to see how they're doing things, just take a mental health break so I can be, the principal in charge, since I haven't been in the building the last couple of years. So I want to make sure I get back to where the magic happens. So I'm just excited to work with some teachers on, the same thing, culturally responsive teaching practices, being culturally sensitive, and talking about racism and how to really connect with our Black and brown students. So that's what's going on for me this week.
All righty. You got a lot going on.
Right. Right on. All right, bestie, what's going on?
You know what? Today was a great day. I can't lie. Like, I recently transitioned into a new role. I'm still working out things in the old world, trying to interview people, trying to get somebody to backfill me. And today was a day of peace. Today, I think I only had 2 meetings, and I've been like literally on fire for the last probably 3 or 4 weeks, just back to back everything. And today, I just got to get a lot of work done. I was very productive. I felt like I was able to own the day. It's a great start to the week, so I'm optimistic. And my birthday's coming up this week, so maybe that's why too. Your girl's in good spirits,
Birthday.
Okay, week. Okay.
It's birthday week.
It's birthday week, and on that I gotta do a horn. I mean, just shout out to Monday. It's
Yes, Monday.
It's
Magic Mondays.
Magic
Okay.
Monday, bestie Monday. It's lit. So yes.
It's lit. Okay, so now it's that part in the menu where we get to tea time, where we get to discuss your book, your amazing book. So first, as always, we have to thank you for coming. We appreciate you taking the opportunity, number one, to write this book, because it's very clear, reading it, that you had your students in mind, that you had your teachers in mind, that you had educators in general in mind, but you also had leaders in mind. So this book, it encompasses so many people, right? It goes well beyond the realms of a classroom. So I want to say thank you for writing it, for sharing it with us, and then obviously for trusting us with it, because this is your work of art. This is your baby. And I know that it can be difficult to put out something and then try to get people's feedback and see how they receive it and how they gauge it. So we always want to thank people for trusting us with their story and with their work. So thank you. And then also, of course, I got to thank my girl, Maria, for letting us borrow her husband for the night.
Definitely. Well, I just want to say thank you to you guys for believing in my work and thinking it was relevant enough to be on your podcast. So I take this very serious. I want to make sure that I represent you and represent my book to the utmost, and make sure that God get the glory out of this at the end of the night. So it's going to be a good night tonight.
It's going to be a great night.
Right.
It's going to be a great night. So you started off, earlier you mentioned your title, Director of Equity and Educator Development. Can you tell us more so what that is? Like, what do you specifically do?
My role as the Director of Equity and Educator Development is to make sure that there are equitable practices taking place throughout our district, in each classroom, each school, making sure that the students feel welcome, safe, valued. Anything that they may need outside of school, the district will be able to help those families and provide assistance to make sure that they have everything that they need to be successful. It's been too long that we've had the has and the has not. So now with my role, they've entrusted me to make some key decisions on being able to help those who need help. And it's been a great experience. As far as the development, I'm in charge of all of our professional development for the district, new teacher institute recruitment, the onboarding process to make sure that they're aligned with our district's mission and vision statements, and really to just support them along their way. Evaluations, giving professional development in certain areas. Every school is at a different place. So just making sure that the professional development is individualized to make sure that the teachers are receiving their best learning going forward. It's a continuous process. That the learning never stops in education. As we can see from this year, those that were prepared to go virtual excelled, and those that didn't prepare kind of struggled. So now it's a point to try to close that opportunity gap that may have even widened during this cultural and health pandemic. So I'm hands-on with my teachers, with my principals, my teammates, my other directors. So I have fun. Every day is different. It's challenging, but the results are great.
That is awesome. That is really awesome. I kind of want to backtrack, and I know, so if you all missed the reading that Sherry Renee and I got to moderate, was that last weekend or maybe a couple weekends ago? That's how pretty much me, that's how I learned about Demetri and his book. But just give us a little background information on who you are and how you got started in your educational career.
Well, I graduated from probably the best high school in the state of Wisconsin, Rufus King High School, the Generals, baby. We gotta blow the horn on that.
We gotta blow the horn on that one. Those Generals all day.
Since I control the horn, I don't know. No.
That's why I did my own horn.
So yeah, I graduated from Rufus King. I attended Assumption College on a basketball scholarship in Worcester, Massachusetts. I got a BA in business management from there. My mom was a teacher at MPS for 30 years. And before I went to college, she said, you know what? You should really go into education, because she was a gym teacher. So I would go into her classroom and help out and lead exercise and participate in drills and things. And she was like, oh, that'll be a great, career for you. I said, Ma, you don't make any money in education. I said, I'm going business. I'm gonna own my own company. I'm not doing that. So after I graduated from college, I played professional basketball overseas in Germany, Switzerland, and the CBA, and in the Ukraine. But unfortunately, I broke my foot twice. So I felt that was a message from God letting me know, look, now I need you to do what I need you to do. So I got into education, started off as a paraprofessional at Hopkins Elementary. I was a gym teacher at Dr. King for 5 years, a 4th and 5th grade teacher, 6th grade teacher at Congress year-round school, algebra teacher at Marshall High School for a year. I was the first African-American male teacher at Oriole Lane Elementary in Mequon, Thingsville. And at that point, I really wanted to get into, administration. So got my 2 master's degrees in curriculum and instruction and administration and supervision from National Louis University. Dr. Gallion, who's the superintendent of the Racine Unified School District, gave me my first opportunity as an educator, as an administrator, as an assistant principal at Knapp Elementary in Racine. Then I went to volunteer at St. Charles Youth and Family Services, just to volunteer on a weekend. During that process, they ended up offering me a principal position there. And I'm like, whoa. So I had to tell my mentor, Dr. Gallion at the time, like, look, I wasn't trying to leave. I was just trying to go there, the interview process. They wanted to know who I was going to be volunteering with their students, and they offered a job. He was like, thank you for communicating and being honest. He said, you got to take that job because that's going to grow and develop you into a better leader. So I stayed there for a year, turned the place around. Students were organized. We had a system in place. But from that, I didn't feel like we were ready to take on the next, big challenge of having more students, but not having the personnel. So stayed in connection with Dr. Guy and was able to go back to Racine as a principal at an elementary school there for 3 years. There, we had the same staff for 3 years. When I got there were no students who were proficient in reading or math. We put in systems, we put in plans, we held each other accountable, and we turned it around. And from there, they wanted me to move to a middle school in Racine to do the same thing I did at the elementary school. 1,400 students, they did some rebounding of that district. So the school was like that Joe Clark. It was like Lean on Me, for real. It was like kids hanging in the hallway, wouldn't go to class, but we were able to maintain and get things done. And I was introduced to this position in Waukesha as a director of equity. Talked about it with Maria, prayed about it, and I've been here for the past 2 years. So my journey in education for the last 25 years has had me starting from the bottom as a paraprofessional, going to get certified, and just wanting a new challenge after each 3 or 4 years to continually grow and develop. My thought process on education has changed dramatically from being that first year gym teacher where you just go in there and you say, oh, I'm gonna have my summers off, I'm gonna be able to do whatever. But after you're in this position for a while, your development and how you really grow takes place during the summer. So that was one of the things I had to adjust to being in education. So I guess I got it from my mom. She knew I should have been in there, but I took the long way out, a long way around to get here. So that's my journey of education.
No, that's quite the journey. So first of all, you gave us a massive rundown there. So I'm hearing some Black history facts, right? So you were the first Black. Can you tell us what that was again? The first Black
male teacher at Oriole Lane Elementary in Mequon, Thiensville School District. I think that was in 2010. One of the best principals I've ever worked for, Mary Jo Tai. I think she's retired now. I think she's living in Nebraska now, back home. So, and she made me feel so comfortable, so welcome, made sure that the parents treated me well, my colleagues treated me well, and we would have meetings every week just to make sure that I felt welcome in that setting. Because like I said, there was one other Black woman teacher that was there, and I was the only male. So they wanted to make sure that I felt comfortable and supported, which I did. So it was a great opportunity.
No, she sounds like an amazing ally. And then I also read in your book that you became the first principal of an alternative school in Milwaukee for expelled students.
Yeah, that was at St. Charles Youth and Family. They've had programs, but they really were looking for a principal to have those structures and systems in place, the rotations of specials and making sure that they were getting their social emotional needs met at that time. So yeah, I was the first principal there, and I think it's still going pretty good there at St. Charles. But it was a great learning experience. Frustrating at times, but those kids just needed some outrageous love. They just needed to know that they were cared for and they could achieve if they really worked hard at it. So it was a great experience.
No, that's awesome. And that must be how you know Bridget, because and who we often talk about here on the podcast, friend of the podcast, guest of the podcast, and also her husband, Joe. So for you guys that are listening. But yeah, when we posted about it, she was like, oh, I'm definitely going to be listening in. I know Demetri. And I'm like, it must be St. Charles.
Yes.
No, but it's so amazing how your path in, right? So you were an athlete playing overseas. The guy said, I'm gonna break that foot twice. Right. You're gonna come in as a gym teacher, because you love sports, so this is like your gateway in. But then, like you said, then you just moved up, paraprofessional, just continuing on upward. And it makes me wonder, what do you think your purpose is?
You know what? I just took a spiritual gift test. So I know that my gift is supposed to be to encourage and support and motivate and inspire others to be the best that they can be. Also to just be a servant leader, to do the things that are necessary to be successful, and to really just add value to everything that I'm a part of. I love supporting, I love helping, I love changing things that might not have been good at the start, but adding some different key pieces to it, some different ideas and some strategies collaboration. I'm big on collaboration and sports and the team aspect. And I've been in sports all my life. So I think every role that I've been in, it's been a group effort. It has to have collaborative. Everyone has to know their roles and make some sacrifices to make things work. So I just love teamwork and building and having success.
That is really awesome. And I think that was like one of the words you used on the last panel that we were on as well, like collaboration and working together, because in education that is very important. Like all of these pieces connect to get the kids where they need to go, whether you're a teacher, whether you're, you know, a secretary, the maintenance staff, like all of those pieces truly work together to make sure that the kids are successful. One thing I want to touch back on is, wow, you said, so in 2010, that was 11 years ago, you were the first Black teacher in the Mequon School District. That is like, that just blew my mind that you were the first in 2010. Tell us about how impactful that has been. Has there been more like African-American staff in Mequon Thiensville since, you know, your time there?
I think they are really trying to recruit a more diverse teaching staff. I know there were, I think 3 or 4 Black teachers that were in the district at that time when I left. I'm not sure where they are right now, but I know the superintendent, Matthew Joint, is really big on diversity. He's really big on culturally responsive teaching. That's a great school district. My son graduated from there, so we lived there just to make sure that he would be able to go to that school. So that's a great program. And I know they were trying even back then to recruit more of a diverse teaching staff, but it's so hard because those teachers stay in those positions because the parental support is good. They have the resources. So it's like, once I get here, I'm not going to leave, you know? So it's a tough spot to get into if you're coming in from the outside.
Gotcha.
No, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to hear such, you know, these Black History facts during Black History Month. So very relevant. One of the things that I wanted to mention was, you know, in the beginning of your book, you talked about who you dedicated it to. Your wife, obviously, right? Your children. You named a lot of amazing people that were impactful in your life, but then ultimately you named your son, who recently passed away. And
Right.
it made me wonder, why was it so important for you to write such an inspirational book during a time when you're grieving?
You know, I was sitting on this book for like a year and a half. I had it in draft mode, and I was just not being, you know, intentional about finishing it. And when Bryce passed, I'm like, man, I have to do something to keep my mind off the negative things, the hurt and the pain that I was going through with his death. And I said, you know what, I'm going to finish this book and dedicate it to him, because he was that type of person. He was gregarious. He was the life of the party, always smiling, always joking around. So I know that this book, you know, was meant. He was in the book a lot because a lot of the characteristics and traits that it came from him. So I just felt it was something I needed to do. It was a motivating factor for me to get it out there, and I did it. So uh, his name will never be forgotten. It'll be, you know, here even when I'm gone. So I just wanted to make sure that he has something to remember himself by, and for me as well.
Oh, yes. And what a blessing to you and your family for that. Because like you said, like now it's written forever in this book, in this ISBN, forever and ever it's out there. And I'm sure he's very much so proud of you and proud of this work that you published. And did you self-publish your book?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's amazing too, that you were able to self-publish, and you know, it's a great, good looking book as well. So I'm excited. So when I just got my book, to be honest with you, so Amazon was a little slow. But when I opened my book, it's so funny that I opened it to page 77, like just on a whim, like opening it, I'm gonna look through it. But it talks about being positive in a negative situation is not naive, it's leadership, which is so relevant because, like I said, today I was just such in a good mood and a positive spirit. And I think that played off to my staff because it made them open up a little more. Like sometimes they can be like, I don't want to share, like things like that. But today we had such, I wish y'all could have seen it and been there because y'all would have been proud. Like we had a really great conversation and a great time. And I think that is true of being positive. Can you talk about, like, especially working with, now you're over equity and diversity for a district. So talking about being positive, and especially in such a role that you play right now, dealing with equity and diversity in a time where we've seen so much racial strife.
I think it is really important to be sensitive to people because everybody's coming in with different background knowledge, and some people just don't know what they don't know. So I think it's easy for us to point the finger and assume where people are coming from, but we got to take a step back and be like, look, well, maybe they don't know, maybe they haven't been around these situations. So it's my job to show them and explain to them this is how things are, and just giving people a lot of grace. And because right now with us being in a cultural pandemic as well as a health pandemic, the election, what happened in DC, all those things come into play. So being positive, even in a negative situation, it shows that maturity and that you are optimistic and you're going to be able to do something positive to come up with a solution instead of just adding gasoline to the fire and keeping it going. Because somebody has to be that voice of reason to make sense of it all. And especially in education, where a lot of people, okay, Black Lives Matter, or we can't support that because it's a group against the police, it's against the Republican Party. But we can support the movement because the movement is to break down the inequities and the disparities dealing with Black people. So sharing that information and breaking things down to people that have this misconception about what they believe, that's the most important part, I think, and having those crucial conversations. And when it comes to race and culture, that's when it really gets uncomfortable. But we got to be uncomfortable to get comfortable and to move forward and to develop and grow. Self-awareness is an ongoing process. You just don't arrive today and be like, oh, I don't have any biases. I'm not a race. Everybody has bias, but we just can't let our first thought be our last thought. We got to check our filter and process some things before we just go off the top saying some things that we don't know about that could do more damage than good. So just being in that teacher mode and explaining and giving people the benefit of the doubt and assuming positive intent.
No, I love that. One of the things that I really like about the book is that for me, it's really like a devotional, if that makes sense. So it's like, it's guided by godly principles, and then you give us your principle for the day. And it's just something that you can kind of meditate on, kind of take with you throughout the day. It's not, you don't have to read one a day. Obviously you can read more, but it's sort of set up that way where it's just like snippets, like this is what you need to do today. Okay, I got it. And so one of my favorite ones comes on page 7, and it says, it's called The Comforter in You. And I'm just going to read a part of it, but it says, when students, colleagues, and parents come to you hurting, depressed, sad, and burdened, you have the power to comfort them. Then it talks about how God is the source of comfort and how we should have a spirit of discernment to build positive relationships with students to help diffuse not so good moments and transform them into healing sessions. And I think that is so relevant and so true. And this is why I also think that this is really a leadership book, because it's just having that spirit of discernment, and it's really about emotional intelligence, right? Like, what way should I approach this situation? What's going on in this person's life? How can I be of service to this individual? How can I help bring out the best in them? And I think that all good leaders, be it parents, be it aunts, be it actual teachers, or just any leader in the community, or even just leadership at your work, even if it has nothing to do with children, you have to have the ability to have emotional intelligence.
Exactly. we're in a position where we recognize gifts in kids and our colleagues more often than the kids do, than our colleagues do. So now it's our responsibility to push them into their next purpose, their next phase of life, because we weren't made to just be comfortable staying in a position for 50 years and never grow. No, we're supposed to continue to grow and develop, and being able to have those discerning capabilities, knowing your students, it goes a long way. Something that we do in our district, we make sure that there's a community building session before we get into any content. If you don't know how your students are coming in, to get a gauge just through the 5 to 7 minutes before instruction begins, do some community building, set some goals, get to know your students before, because there you'll be able to tell, because kids are going to tell it. Some kids are going to tell it all too much. You shouldn't have said that, and some are going to take some time until they feel comfortable in that setting. But being able to pull a student to the side because you see they're not their usual self, that's teaching. That's having that spirit. That's focusing on that SEL component that we're really focusing on now because of the pandemic and how people are coming back, because it's affected them mentally, physically, emotionally, health-wise, financially. So students are really vulnerable and fragile right now. So it's our jobs as educators, mentors, coaches, principals, to be that way, even with some of our teachers, because our teachers are going through it too. And we're in a prime position to make change. And if you're not discerning that, you can miss it and really do more damage than good. So that's why the comforter and us, we all have that ability to change the atmosphere, to change any situation we go into, as long as we're positive and not letting any distractions or outside things or superficial worldly things interfere with what we're doing in our schools or in our classroom. We definitely can make an impact.
This is so good. But I'm so glad Sherry brought up that this is very much like a devotional, because I agree. So again, those of you who are listening live now who were not with us a couple weeks ago when Demetri was a part of the African American Read-In Day, tell us a little bit of why the book is the way it is as far as formatting.
I wanted the book to really jumpstart the reader in the beginning of the day. How I came up with the devotional, I got up at 4 a.m. for like 3 years in a row. I would read and pray before I would go to the gym and work out. And then I would text my colleagues in Racine. So it started off with 5 or 6, of my colleagues who, I would inspire, motivate, let them know, look, we in this together. And then it grew to 25 or 30 over the course of the years. And they said, you know what, this is something that you need to share. You can share this with others. And I shared this with my brothers, Lamont and Cam, and they're like, dude, they're like, hey, you need to share this with the world, because what you have here, this is great information. And hooked up with Jock, who created the cover, this bad cover right here, Jock Hale, mastermind, amazing. C Money, Chris Camacho hooked up my picture, my mug shot on the back. So it was definitely a team effort. My wife editing, looking at things, making sure it made sense. So I just wanted it to really be a positive message to start the day. And as Sherry said, you don't have to just read just one. You can read as many as you want to, but I just wanted, there are, I think, 180 quotes, leadership quotes, and biblical scriptures with teaching strategies to connect and to ensure success in your classroom, in your schools. And I'm just sharing everything that has worked for me over the course of my years, that the mistakes that I've made, I've learned from it, and I was able to put it and capture it in this book. So future educators or current educators or parents or coaches, whoever reads this book, it can be applied professionally or personally. I just didn't want to be put in a box and be like, oh, this is just for educators. No, this book is for everybody, but I'm just so passionate and love educators, because we play such a huge role with our children, with our youth, with our future. And I want to make sure that the educators and leaders and district administrators are in a good place to make the right decisions, because it's going to have a domino effect on the students, the families, the communities, and the trajectory of the students' lives. So I just want to make sure that we're in a good place, and know that, you're not alone in this journey. You are not alone, because education wasn't supposed to be like this. It's supposed to be collaborative, and God is not going to let you be out there alone, because he wants that relationship with you. Just like the students want that relationship with the teachers, God wants the same thing. So it's twofold.
No, I love that you did it this way, because it's more digestible. You know what I mean? Because when you hear people say like, oh, I'm going to give you these principles, you think like textbook. Like, now I got to study. Now I got to take notes. You know what I mean? And you ran down all of your credentials, right? You got more degrees than a thermometer. That's what TD Jakes would say, right? So I think that it's less intimidating, right? And it's more practical, and it's something that I can apply right away. I can literally read something today and say, how am I going to use this literally today? And it can set the tone for my day. And like Chanel said, she had a great day, you know? And you can use the things that you learn to inspire your peers. So it becomes contagious, right? And then you can refer them back to just a little snippet like, hey, and then even it made me think like, okay, it made me think about a bunch of different things: sororities, fraternities. It made me think about different community programs. You and I were discussing the YMCA Black Achievers Program, which is near and dear to my heart. Churches, church staff, right? How like if there's even just a morning meeting just to set the tone, it can be, hey, this is our thought for today or the week or whatever. Like you can manipulate it to be whatever works for you. It could literally be a week, our thought for the month, like however long you want to meditate on it.
Right.
Go ahead and digest it in that way. So one of the questions that I had is, why was it so important for you to include biblical principles? Because I think a lot of people, if they were writing it, they might say like, oh, God is a touchy subject. Everybody doesn't believe in God. Is everybody going to receive this? So why was it so important to you? Like reading it, it's very clear that you were like, I'm putting God in this.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
Now don't ask no questions, right?
Exactly. The Bible is the cheat code. I mean, he's that's where everything comes from. Having many wise advisors to make a decision, that's distributed leadership. That came from the Bible. Write the vision and make it plain. We're doing vision board. It came from the Bible. So I had to incorporate that, because when I committed my life to Christ and was saved and started really following biblical principles, it was like things just started happening. I'm getting calls from different places that I wasn't even trying to leave or get connected with, but God just kept elevating me, and now I'm in this position. So before I loved education, but my mindset, I was all over the place. And I thank God that he didn't allow me to be an administrator back before I was saved, because I had it all wrong. I said, you know what? I'm going to be the coolest administrator. Happy hour. I'm going to have all my staff out. We're going to go out. We're going to have drinks. And we're going to do this. We're going to have fun. And I would have ruined myself, because I wasn't in the right place. And that's not who a leader, that's not how a leader should act. A leader is supposed to be different. You're supposed to be the role model. So if you're out at happy hour at the club or the bar getting drunk, and then you're trying to have the same respect on Monday with your staff after you done acted a donkey on Friday, not even remembering the things that you did or said, that wasn't a good look. And I know that probably would have been me if I would have got a job before. Yes. So and with me, I said, oh, these people are just hating. They just don't want me to elevate. No, it's not people. It was not people. It was God saving me from destruction of my family, my marriage. And that time to mature really helped me develop and understand, man, I did this, praying, fasted, hanging around, like-minded people, goal setting, sacrificing, and things happen. So I had to share the blueprint for success in this book. I'm not perfect, but I'm much better than when I was where I was a long time ago. I'm focused. strategic. I'm more intentional and consistent with, everything that I do in life now. So that's why I wanted to make sure God got the glory, because he is responsible for everything. And as much as, the government and society wants to keep God out of school, what were they doing during this pandemic? Everybody was praying. When we couldn't go to church, we want to go to church. We need God. We've always needed God. So now this is my way of getting God in the school building, getting God in the hands of teachers who are having an impact on students, to be able to change some mindsets, to be able to change some thought processes, to have some faith, to have hope, to get their joy back in teaching. Because during this pandemic, teaching virtual, you're shut down, then you're face to face, and then you're virtual again, and then you can just throw your hands up like, look, I'm done with this. So I really wanted this to really rejuvenate and help teachers to know this is just a wilderness season. This is just going to be a moment. And what I also tell our new teachers in the school district of Waukesha, you guys are going to be the leaders in our district, because you came in during this time. You learned so much so quickly. Anything else that happens when we go back face to face and we're in the classroom, you're going to have so many skills added to your repertoire of teaching virtually, using technology, live streaming. All those things are just added skills that you have. And it may have been very time consuming, frustrating, hard to deal with at first, because you just don't know. I'm new and I'm coming into this. I got 30 kids that I got to teach virtually. How am I going to handle it? God, collaboration, your PLC, your professional learning community, support from your administrators, your district administrators. That's what's going to get you through. And I really want, I want this to be because they're not going to tell you this in college, undergrad. They're not going to tell you all these things before you get there. You're going to have to learn on your own, experience some things. And I don't want that. That's called wisdom, letting someone else make the mistakes and you just learn from it by reading or hearing or seeing them in action. So that was really a goal of mine, to make sure God was in this book and it got into as many hands as possible, especially those who are impacting children.
Ooh, yes, you preaching today.
Right. I'm like, so should we set up a collection?
I'm ready. Listen, where can I send my offering to you,
Right.
sir? Because look, you got me. I'm sold. But I'm glad you just brought up something that says, like, new teachers don't learn these type of things in their undergraduate programs. I know I for sure didn't. No shade to Alverno. I think Alverno is a great school, especially preparing teachers. But there were just a lot of things that I didn't know until I actually got in the classroom, where it's just like, oh, okay, this is how this works, or this is what this looks like. So have you ever thought about, like, I know you kind of work linearly in your educational career, but is it at some point, would you consider like being a professor or working for a teacher education program?
Yeah, I'm the CEO of All Drive LLC. So that's my educational consulting company. And I did work at Carthage College a couple years ago as an adjunct professor. So I am that's something that I've considered and thought about, because teachers that really want to work in an urban setting that don't have a clue, just being able to really help and guide them on what they need to do and know before stepping that foot in that classroom that first day, just really giving them the confidence and the skills of what to expect. Especially because a lot of teachers say, yeah, I want to teach in an urban setting, but they haven't had any experience other than student teaching. So I think more front loading and giving them the real, instead of being reactive and showing them, oh, this is what you should have done, this is what we're doing. No, let's be proactive. I know something that we're doing in Waukesha, we're bringing back, or I'm bringing back a mentoring program for our new teachers. I survey all of our teachers at the end, in the middle of the year, the end of the year. How are we doing? Do you like the support that you received? Was it enough? What are something that we can do better? And they say they love the support, but they would love a mentor. So, okay, so we're going to bring back, a mentoring program for our new teachers to give them the support that they need, because I think 70%, 80% of teachers leave in the first 2 to 3 years of teaching because of lack of support and because of the support of the principal. Teachers don't leave school, they leave administrators or in support. So if we can really get connected with our principals, connected with our mentors and our new teachers, having that relationship and the mission aligned goal setting to make sure that they have everything that they need to be successful, that's how you retain a high quality instructional staff, and there's not that much turnover. So those are some of the things that we're really focusing on in my role, and I love it because teachers say, you know what, I've never had this much support. I didn't know that people got back that fast to us when there's a need. So, you know, just being professional and being having that high quality of professionalism to give them what they need to be successful. So.
No, I love that. As I look through your book, I'm seeing a lot of quotes from John C. Maxwell, Oprah Winfrey, Will Smith. Big fan of Will Smith, by the way, and all his quotes. A lot of wisdom there. And then also our pastor, Pastor Marlon Locke. So I would also classify this book as a self-help book. So if you're a self-help junkie like myself, you might want to get it. I see a lot of continuous improvement methodologies in here, right? So I work at a manufacturing organization, right? And then you just talked about quality. But with that, it's also empathy, because a lot of things that you're saying is that the teachers don't have support. They don't feel supported. They want a mentor. That's wisdom. If I give you what I already know, that's wisdom. They're not going to teach you these things in school. So let me fill in the gap. And so I want to go to the page 44 where you talked about empathy. And the reason why is because very rarely do we hear men talk about empathy. So shouts out to you for that, and thank you for that. And also because empathy is one of those things that is lacking in our society right now, right? With a lot of the way that society is just kind of very vain, right? Selfies, the whole thing. Um, so Oprah Winfrey says, leadership is about empathy. It is about having the ability to relate and to connect with people for the purpose of inspiring and empowering their lives. Then you say the qualities of being an empathic teacher and leader are extremely important because it plays a huge role in many areas when dealing with people, but especially with children, parents, and teachers. Empathy helps you create bonds, gives you insights, guides your understanding, helps you become a better listener and communicator. By incorporating empathy into your daily practice, you can fine tune your skills to listen, support, and assist instead of trying to solve or fix an issue. So why was it so important for you to use specifically the word empathy?
You People want to know that you care about them as a person, and it's just not business as usual. Um, Especially in this day and age, people are leaving this place due to COVID. Um, Things aren't consistent as they should be just because of the way of the world. So being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes shows that you really care about that person, that you care about their well-being versus, are you going to be here today because so and so is out, so we need a sub, we need you to cover these no, people want to know that you genuinely care about them, and that's how um, people stay with you. They know your personality. They feel your character. They can tell if you're genuine or if you're fake. So to be empathetic, it really goes a long way, and it builds those long lasting relationships with your students, your parents, and your teachers, because they want somebody to follow who's an example, who's going to be there when they're having a rough day, who can be like, look, I just need to leave right now. I'm not having the best. Don't worry about it. I got you. We'll talk about it later. Having that open door policy where people feel comfortable and welcome into your office or into your classroom to tell you anything. And for those of you who are listening, if you are the ones that people always come to around your classroom, around your cubicle, around where you are, that means you have influence. That means you have something in you that people like. They want to be around. So you have the power to be empathetic and to be an influencer that's going to drive that change. So being sensitive to other people's needs, being able to tell, oh, this person isn't as happy or talkative today. Let me see what's going on. But really, it's something that I know men do all the time. We try to solve things, and in the profession, there are a lot more male principals than females. So a lot of times we just try to fix things. We don't even listen. You come to us with a problem, we're already thinking, okay, hurry up, be quiet, so I can go ahead and give you the answer. But that's not being real. That's not being an active listener. You just want to solve the problem and move on. But really helping, digging deep and finding the root cause of the issue. Sometimes people just want you to listen and to be an ear, to be that counselor, to be that confidant. And once you have that skill mastered, people will follow you. I work with 3 gentlemen at St. Charles, and once I moved to Racine, I asked him, Wendell White, who is probably going to be one of the top motivational speakers. His book is coming out, The Devil Thought He Had Me. He came out to Racine with me. Adrian Shadell was at St. Charles. He came out there and changed the whole trajectory of that school, because when you have like-minded, God-fearing men in your building, things can happen. So people will follow you because of your leadership, because of your personality, because of your integrity. So that's something that's really big with me, being able to have that stability and be the same no matter what. And empathy is the way to get it.
See, this is why we're gonna have to take up an offering. You just said a whole lot. And honestly, it made me also think that this is just good for even relationships, parent child, teacher student, romantic relationships, friendships, um, co-workers. Like, that was, you said a whole lot. And it's, again, I appreciate you using the word empathy as a man, because it's not something that you hear every day, and also that you don't necessarily see it being displayed. A lot of people are do a lot of things that are very self-serving, again, because of the culture that we live in. But go ahead, Chanel. I know you ready, girl. I just had to jump in. Beekman, no,
I got so many.
that I'm vibing.
Listen, this is so good, and I'm so glad that you wanted to be a guest on the show and that we're able to talk to you, because I'm just looking at the title. So like the subtitle for your book is Inspiring Educators to Be Their Best for Students Who Need Them the Most. And I think to what you and both Sherry were saying is that this is not just for the typical educator, like in the school setting, but anybody can be an educator, anybody can be a teacher, anybody can do those things. And right now, anybody can be a student as well. Right now, Sherry, Renee, and I both are being students of yours, like just listening to your wisdom and the things that you're saying. So I think that is very impactful. One thing I was thinking about as you were talking is, just being a Black man in education and how inspiring that has to be. Because thinking back to my own educational journey, I can remember I didn't have a Black man teacher until high school, and it was one, and he was my ELA teacher. And it's just interesting that you don't see a lot of Black men in the classroom. So what ways are you inspiring other young Black men to want to even get into education?
We're having those conversations in our school district. We really are trying to recruit, trying to build some enthusiasm, some passion in education, because education is not something that everybody is going into, especially right now. So we're trying to be creative and come up with some programs, partnering with different colleges in the area to give financial discounts and scholarships to be able to try to recruit Black men to our district and into just education all in itself. But it's very women dominated, and when it comes to Black men, we get that stereotype of that Black men don't have patience with children. They barely want to take care of their own and this and that. No, there are a lot of great men out there, Black men, that can have an impact. And you're starting to see that more, especially on the East Coast, because they're doing some heavy recruiting there. And I know in the Midwest here, we're going to be doing the same thing to try to rejuvenate the education pool for our Black males. Because statistics show when there is a Black male in front of Black children, they perform better. They can assimilate better. They can understand better because they see themselves in that teacher. Um, so not being able to see someone of color that looks like you all through your educational career, you start to wonder, like, man, what's going on? Why isn't this happening? And the question I think Sherry asked about being at Oriole Lane, the first year, people were curious. How are you going to teach all these students that don't look like you? I can remember my principal said, why are you going out there to teach? Because you're not teaching anybody that looks like you. But I said, you know what? I said, good teaching is good teaching, and you can teach anybody. And it was a way to show other students that might not have ever experienced having a Black male teacher ever until they got to college or never, because you're in a predominantly white school district, you may never encounter diversity. So after my first year, you know, people, they were like, wow, I had a waiting list of parents requesting me as their teacher because I challenged them. I didn't have any excuses. I said, no, you live out here, you got two parents, you get here on time, you're gonna do this work. So we had high expectations. I held them accountable, and I called their parents, and they were like, wow, we never got called on this handwriting, but yeah, we thought about it. I said, yeah, we're gonna do better. So letting them see somebody in that position and building relationships and tearing down those stereotypes that they may have had was very important for me to do. And hopefully it opened up the door to other Black instructors, Latino, Hispanic, anyone of a different nationality or race, to be able to go there and they would trust that they were going to do a good job. So being the first, being the only one, you represent everybody. And I know right now in my district, I'm one of, I think, 5 or 6 Black employees. So representing as much as possible, not trying to code switch to fit in, but just being who I am. You know, we really don't have to code switch. We just keep it real, and they'll respect you more for that. And for a person to be in that role, they expect to be authentic. They expect you to be yourself, and that's what they get. And I think it is so important to have diverse teachers in all schools and not have to wait until you're grown to try to interact and figure out, oh, I've never ever had you, I've seen your type of people or culture or religion. I've never experienced it until now. So I think that's why now the culture and diversity needs to be embraced by all districts, because we're the only ones that are really going to be able to show that, because we can't hold the parents accountable for that. It's the educators.
No, I love that. I appreciate the fact that you have such a well-rounded background when it comes to teaching. It basically shows that you can teach in any space. Like you said, a good teacher is a good teacher. But more than that, it's a big influence on the students, because Chanel and I both went to PWI, so shouts out to Marquette or whatever. No, I'm just playing. We love Marquette. I'm just being shady. Love Marquette, but oftentimes I was a student in a class of 400 and I'm the only Black person, right? And I've had some students say to me, "You're the only Black person that I saw in real life." You know what I mean? This is my first time. I came from a small town, blah, blah, blah. You're the first time. And then they would stare at you. They make all these assumptions. They make assumptions about the Black men on campus. You must be an athlete, right? You must have a tutor. You got in here because of affirmative action, right? Because the default is that, they have the assumptions that they have, right? They have the assumptions that they have. And I think that what you're doing is showing them something different. You're dispelling the myth. You're changing the narrative, essentially. But you started off by talking about how women are so dominant in this space. And I was looking on page 65 where you say that women are really 80% of the teachers in the industry. But then you said, are you the right person for the job? What kind of woman are you? Are you a Proverbs 31 woman? These women are extremely hard to find. They add value to everything they become, oh, I'm sorry, they add value to everything they become involved in and are selfless, making sure the needs of everyone else is met before their own. And this is why I call it a self-help book, right? Is because essentially you're saying, look in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you? Are you the highest version of yourself? What flaws do you have? How are you adding to those around you? Are you community oriented? Do you care about your sister, about your brother, right? Not your literal sister or brother, but does Sherry Renee care about Chanel? Are you pouring into her? Is iron sharpening iron? Is that happening? Or are you dulling the knife? What you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's that piece of accountability that I can appreciate and the challenging questions that come up in this reading. Um, and so I guess I'm wondering, when you were writing this, did you envision it being a self help book? Like, was that part of the plan, or is that just the way that it got laid out? Because, when you kind of talked about the process, you're saying, I was really just texting a group of people, trying to inspire them, trying to set them up for the day. So, like, how did we get here? Is this just happenstance, or was that by design?
I think the more that I got to writing and getting deeper, because I had to scale down a lot of what I had originally written just to make sure that it followed the point that I wanted to get. And eventually it did evolve into, this is a self-help book, a devotional, a very reflective book, because I'm asking questions for you to look at yourself and see, where am I falling short? What areas do I need to improve on? What can I do better to serve those around me or those that I work with? And I think writing that, living it, and sharing it really helped people receive it. And I just hope that it inspires people to take that look in the mirror and ask themselves those hard questions. Am I empathetic? Am I Do I carry the fruit of the spirit in my class? Do I have love? Do I have patience with my students? Do I resolve issues, or do I go to bed angry? Do I give my students a fresh 24 the next day? Or am I still holding on to that grudge because they called me out of my name and disrespected me? So those are the strategies and things that I really want teachers or parents or coaches to look at, because it does have a long lasting impact on those that they're serving. Um, so yeah, self-help, reflection, motivation, inspiration, get the joy back, because teaching is incredible. Coaching, I was also the basketball coach of John Marshall High School, and I love the transformation from starting in November and then ending the season in March, because you see the growth, you see the consistency, you see the continuity, you see the togetherness, you see everybody working towards the same goal. The same thing with teaching. You see in the beginning in September, their MAP scores, their scores may be so low, but then the goal is to get them beyond where they should be at the end of the year in June. So seeing that progress, where they couldn't write a 5-paragraph essay, they couldn't solve math problems, but now they're explaining how and doing it and showing others, where before they just had no clue. So just showing that continuous process of growth. That's the joy in teaching.
Yes, it sure is. And I could agree with that. We're actually in the middle of map testing right now. So I get to see all of the growth from fall to winters, which has been really exciting. But one thing I'm also wondering, Demetri, is define leadership. What does leadership mean to you in your own words?
Leadership is responding to controversy or conflict in an optimistic and positive way. Leadership is putting yourself second for the sake of the rest of your team. Leadership is having those hard conversations with people that other people may just glaze over. Leadership is saying, I don't have the answer, I need help, or I'll find out the answer through research. Um, Leadership is being transparent, open, honest, letting them know who you are as a person, what your flaws are, and let them know that you're human. I might make mistakes, but it's not on purpose. And just know that I'm trying my best to lead you and to be the best version of myself for you. So I think those are key things. And leadership, you got to have a plan. You got to have a vision. And the vision and mission have to be exciting. They have to motivate the people that you're leading, because if it's just a boring mission or vision, no one's going to follow it. It starts with you. You have to be the role model. The camera is always rolling on the leader, no matter what you say, no matter what you do, how you act, facial expressions, everything. So you have to be the focused one at all times. As bad as it may seem, especially with social media, kids videotaping and putting you out there, saying certain things, doing things, you got to have self-control. You definitely got to have self-control as a leader.
That is so good. And shout out to any of my coworkers that's listening. Usually I have some coworkers listening into the podcast live only on the Good News Radio app. But this just has been so great and so enlightening. Yes, I'm definitely going to buy a copy of your book for my staff, just because I think it's important for them to have this book as part of their, in classroom library. And I cannot wait to like really read it. And I think I'm going to do it as a devotional, like kind of read one every day to get me going. Because this is, hey, you don't know what you don't know until you get it. And if you are any type of educator or working with kids or working with people in general, you definitely need to get this book immediately.
Yeah. And the reason why I wrote Teaching in the Wilderness, because sometimes teachers feel like they're all alone. They don't have anybody. They're not being supported. But in the wilderness is a place that can be defined two ways. It could be dry, it could be barren, it could be desolate, it could be filled with death. But the wilderness is also a time of growth, maturing, processing, developing. So even though things may be going hard right now, you may not understand why you have certain students in your class, why you're at that school with that leader, or why am I the leader at this school with people that don't have passion. It's because you're going to be able to help someone else in your role down the line with the exact same things that you're overcoming right now. So without any challenges, there's no growth. You gotta struggle. You gotta fight through. You gotta keep the faith and know that this will pass. And you're gonna look back at it and be like, you know what? When I was going through, this is what I did. This is where that mentorship comes in. This is where that wisdom comes in. This is where that reflection comes in. That's so important in education. We're not supposed to keep all this to ourselves. We're supposed to help those that are coming up after us to keep things going in a positive way. Because if we keep it to ourselves, we are in the wilderness. We are isolating ourselves. And that's not how God intended us to be as humans, as colleagues, as partners, as parents. We're supposed to work together. So that was the rationale for the wilderness as the title.
No, I love that. Along with the cover, right? You can kind of flip it and get two different perspectives.
Yeah.
So it could either be a beautiful place of maturation, or it could be desolate and dry, right? Um, I'm wondering, so okay, I'm really loving the accountability in this book. There's a point in the book, and I don't recall the page number, but you say something to the effect of, when you know something, you become responsible for it. So if you mishandle it, you could actually make the situation worse, right, than what it already is. And what I'm hearing you say is, I'm trying to equip you so that you know better, and now I'm making you accountable to do better, right? Because now you have the book, now you know, now you read it, day by day. And it's also your job to share it with other people, because like you said, iron does sharpen iron. And there was also a point in here where you talked about, you're the sum of the five people around you, right? And so what I heard when you say that was, number one, you use the scripture of bad company corrupts good character. But what I also heard is, make sure that you ain't the one in the group being negative, you know,
Being
being a
negative.
virus out here,
Exactly.
right? Infecting everybody.
Exactly. Yes.
So I'm really loving the accountability. It fosters a lot of self-reflection and makes you just wonder, or at least reflect on how you're impacting others. Is it negative? Is it positive? What is my brand? What do people get from me? And so it made me wonder, who do you have to become to write this book?
Mm. You just have to be someone that wants to share the struggles, the heartache, the successes, the failures, to give others hope and inspiration and let them know, look, you can get through it. You can make it. Because I was just like you at one point. I didn't have all the answers, but um, just wanting to help society be better. Everybody has a book in them. Everybody has a testimony that they want to share. It's just a matter of people being disciplined enough, focused enough, and determined to get it out there, because your story will help millions of people if it's out there. So I just wanted to make sure that my story helped educators, help parents and coaches um, to have those relationships with the people, the students that they lead, the players that they coach, and to have those great relationships, because relationships are so important in the work environment. And everybody is different, but just embracing the diversity and the differences of everyone, that's key. And I think in this book, it talks about, if you don't know, you just ask questions. You got to ask the right questions to get the right answers. If you're not asking the right questions, you're not going to get the answers that you're looking for. So really just being intentional and being, curious to learn more. Because if you're not, you're going to be stagnant and you're not going to grow. And people are going to pass you by, and you're going to miss out on opportunities and relationships that could really benefit you in the long run.
That is good. That is good. So I have one final question that I'm just thinking about, and I'm always curious. How do you think that education, or just, education in general, how do you think that, I'm trying to think of how I want to word this. How do you think that education will continue post pandemic? Like, you've seen some changes. I know you have. I've definitely seen a lot of changes. I couldn't imagine being a classroom teacher right now. So I'm thankful that I'm in leadership where I don't actually have to directly teach children, because this has just been such a hard time. But I feel like educators are just rolling with it. They're being very resilient, like we've never seen before. So how do you think the state of education will continue, like post pandemic?
I believe that teachers are going to be looked at in a totally different light. I think they already are being looked at, because since March of last year, 2020, to the end of the year, our parents had to be the teachers, and parent, in all actuality, parents are the first teachers. So they had to get a feel of what teachers do on a regular basis with 25, 30, 35 students in their class. So I think there's going to be much more appreciation for teachers. I think the expectations are going to change. Instead of, I know with the evaluation process, Danielson framework, there were 22 components for evaluation. Now they're focusing on, 8, dealing with knowing your students, social emotional learning, and student engagement. So there's going to be some resetting. Last year, we didn't have any statewide assessments, and we did fine. So it's okay to start over and to rebuild and rethink the systems and structures that are really going to impact student learning and what's really important. So I think there's going to be some more changes coming down the pipe. I know there's going to be probably more virtual learning options for some of our students, because some of our students that struggled face to face really excelled in the virtual setting. So I think parents are going to have the option to figure out what's best for their child. And I think teachers are going to be more equipped, are going to be more ready, and are able to to really meet the needs of all students, whether it's virtual or face-to-face. I think there's going to be more collaboration amongst educators, because I think through this process, it took everybody out of their comfort zone, and not then they had to rely on each other. They had to have those conversations. Okay, who's better at teaching in a virtual setting? Who's better at face-to-face and planning? I think education is going to be on an upswing once we get through with this. Hopefully the vaccination will cure everything and we'll be able to be back face-to-face sooner than later. But I think we're really going to see some accelerated learning take place when we're back face-to-face, because I know the kids are excited to be back in school, those that are, and for those that aren't and are starting, they're going to be anxious and they're going to be ready to learn, because they miss that structure. As much as they try to fight it, they love the structure, they love the routine, they love the consistency. So I think education is going to be in a much better place once we get back.
Yes, I'm definitely hopeful. So from your mouth to God's ears to First Lady Dr. Jill Biden's ears, because we all need to get this to work together. But yes, so I'm definitely seeing some great things. Again, shout out to my school, Malika Early Learning Center. Definitely our teachers have been showing out, and I'm always trying to show them my appreciation and thank them, because they're doing everything they can and some to make sure that our kids are successful.
Yeah, and just as the kids need that validation, that affirmation, so do the teachers, so do the paraprofessionals, the assistants, the psychologists, the health aides, the bus drivers, the people in the cafeteria. They need to be recognized, because without them, things wouldn't be, where we are right now. Everybody's coming together, playing their role. So it's a team effort, but like I said, the teachers really need to be praised and commended for the efforts that they're doing, because they're going above and beyond, because they had no clue this was going to happen. No one did. So shout out to all the teachers. We appreciate you. I appreciate you, because it could be so easy just to say, nope, I'm not coming in today, I'm quitting. But then that domino effect, the kids, the parents, the families, your colleagues, how is that impacting everyone else? So that's where that great leadership comes in. You're thinking of others instead of yourself.
Word up. Yes. Word to all of that.
Oh, I agree 100%. I think that it's easy to underestimate the impact that you have on someone's life, and we made a post, maybe it was like a week ago or so now, but it said, if you think that you're too small to make an impact, think about a mosquito or something like that. And it's like, yeah, a mosquito will mess up your whole daggone weekend, leave a bruise, you might be bleeding, it's the whole thing. But I think it's true, right? It's like when I used to be at Black Achievers, I remember when I was finishing out a year, I was like, I'm done. I did my year. I'm out. A group of my students graduated, but then there were still some students that were sophomores, and they were like, no, Miss Sherry, you can't leave. And I was like, oh my God, I'm abandoning these students. I can't do that. So then I ended up having to stay until the last ones graduated. And then after that, when they tried to invite me back, I was like, no, because then I'm gonna get sucked in and have to do another 4 years. This is a 4-year commitment. You said 1, it's really 4. But no, it's like, even with that, it was just 1 day a week for a couple hours, right? And you think like, they don't care, but they absolutely notice if you're not there. They absolutely, especially if they can talk to you. So I agree. I think that it goes beyond just, students in the community, but even like your own nieces and nephews. And then you just said, if you're a parent, you're really your child's first teacher. And I know I read something before. It said, if you're only learning in the classroom, you're in trouble, right?
You're already behind.
You're already behind. And obviously, we're not talking about math, right? But we're talking about these principles, like things that will equip you to get through life. So I just want to say thank you for putting it in this book and in this format. I really appreciate the format. I'll be honest. I really appreciate the format because, like I said, it's very digestible. I can just it's like making a very big impact with a small amount of effort, right? I can read this. It'll take literally a minute to read it, but it's so loaded and jam packed. I can meditate on it all day or all week if I need to. And then obviously I can refer back to something. Mine got red marks, highlights, and the pages
Right.
dog-eared already. Okay. So
I
I
like
think
that.
it's an excellent book, and I think it's a useful tool. I think I'm gonna buy some copies and send it to a group that I think could benefit. I think that there's so many groups. I think, like I said before, anybody who's leading
Mm-hmm.
at home or professionally in any capacity, I think could really benefit from this. So I'm grateful that you took the time to write it, and I'm glad that you got over the hump of being kind of stagnant and just going ahead and pushing it out. Because I think that it will impact the world. If the world can get it, can have access to it, I think it could be a great impact to the world. So we're a little bit over because we got excited.
Yeah. I was like, tell us more.
Hey,
Because I'm a self-help junkie. I really am. So
Yes,
yeah.
you are.
I'm
Not
just
just
trying
I
to
could
get
go through each one of these with you, Beekman. Look, but
right.
if Maria gonna be texting me in a minute, like, let my husband go. Okay, dinner is cold.
it's done. This dinner is
Right, dinner is done.
Right.
but
But
yeah.
okay, so we're gonna move to the to-go box. This is the last segment on our menu. So we have to say what we're taking away with us. We have a lot to take away,
We do.
but let's try to pick maybe one or two things to put in our to-go box.
Yeah, so I'm like I said, I'm absolutely inspired. I think just knowing that this was coming this evening, I was just on fire all today, like just loving what I do, and I guess that reignited in me of why I wanted to be an educator, because sometimes you lose focus of that. Like, why am I doing this? Like, what's
Mm,
going on? Like, I don't know.
that's
Um,
good.
but the past couple days and then today, I'm just like, this is, my purpose and what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm walking right into that. But I'm very much so gonna read this. I cannot wait to share it with my staff and talk about it with my staff. And also just using it as a guide too for professional development, like having conversations with teachers about what they need and how they're doing. I think through this pandemic has really made me focus on asking them about them, like how are you, and not even on no academic or educational things, but just them as people, and getting them to share out with me. So I'm excited for this. Again, like Sherry Renee said, thank you for writing this and being courageous enough to do this, especially in your time of grief, to share this with the world. I think it's so important. And I know it's some great things coming for you, Demetri. I'm excited for you. I hope you go on your book tour and you share this with educators all across the world, because I think this is a very important book. And education is my heart. I love everything about it. So I'm very thankful for you for writing such a book and being a Black man. Like, this is just the icing on the cake. Like, wow, shout out to you.
Thank you. I never thought in a million years that I would write a book. I'm like, man, that takes too much time. I would never. But as you get older and you see people that are in your circle doing the same thing, that kind of motivates you and pushes you. And then when you have people that are like-minded and want to see you do well, you step up and you do that. So I can say the people that I was surrounded with really pushed me, and just hearing it from other people um, took it to the next level. And one thing that I want people to know, on page 39 in my book, living on purpose, it's a Bishop T.D. Jakes quote. And it says, I would hate to die and never do the thing I was born to do. Parents, teachers, you know the gifts that your children have. Help develop it, help bring it out, help them to realize that they can dream again and they can achieve at the highest level and be whatever. That's the one takeaway that I really want people to, and it goes for adults too. You're never too old to be what you wanted to be. I think that's a George Eliot quote, from Amway. When I was part of Amway, that saw that quote
Yeah, I
all the
think
time.
it's never too late to be what you might have been.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
You
Share
know,
with
I know it.
it. I know. I know you do. Yes, yes. So yes, and like I said, even for adults, you can still dream and fulfill your purpose. It's not too late. So I just want everybody to find their purpose and be great in that.
Now, I absolutely love that. And not only children, right, but even in your peers. Like, if you know with your friends, with your loved ones. Like in the beginning of your book, you talked about how Maria really inspired you to go back to school and how she saw that you were a leader and that you had great influence. Sometimes you just need people to see you, right? And then to help push you to take that next step to do that thing that you're fearful to do. So I absolutely love that you said that. One of my biggest takeaways is going to be, and let me see if I have the page number because I try to document stuff, but it it talks about, page 61, um, getting your assignment for the day. Just being very intentional and clear. And I started doing that a couple years ago, and then I kind of fell off. Like I literally would wake up and be like, God, what is it that you would have for me to do today? And then before I would go to bed, I would be like, God, did I do what it was that you asked me to do? Right. Now, sometimes we both know that it was a no.
Right.
No, you wasn't even close. But hey, another 24, you have another opportunity to get it right. But I really want to get back to that. And I think that's what I love about the book, is that it's forcing us to go back to the basics, because at the end of the day, these are the principles of God, right? Like it doesn't change. And you said that in your book. We change, he don't change.
Right.
So it is what it is. I said what I said. Do what I said, right? I don't know how many other ways you need me to say it, but it's the fundamentals that we need to learn to live by. And I think that that's what I want to get back to, is literally being intentional in the morning and saying, God, what is it that you would have for me to do today? And make sure that I'm aligned with my assignment so that nothing is going to deter me from doing that, and not being distracted by the other things that might come my way. Because if I'm on assignment, then I'm on purpose, and I'm
Right.
right. So that's one of my biggest takeaways. All righty. So thank you again. This is probably my favorite. So usually Chanel's like, this is my favorite episode. No, I'm jumping in first. I
I
think
was
this
about
is
to
my
say it too.
favorite. Yes, I love this book. I want to thank you for taking the time to come on here and discuss it with us. Like I said, I recommend it to anybody who is a leader. So leader in your home, leader in your field. And I know for me, I'm leading in a new capacity at work now. So it's very relevant and very timely for me as I migrate to a new department, to a whole new group of stakeholders, trying to make sure that I am being a servant leader, right? Making sure that I'm taking care of all of my stakeholders in the way that they need to be taken care of, especially in this climate when we are virtual, where I don't have the face-to-face contact. Even with my external stakeholders, usually I would be able to go visit them. I would go be able to travel more, go have dinner with them, etc. Can't really do that as much. So I think that I have to be very mindful of how I'm presenting myself and very intentional. So again, I have to say thank you for writing it. Thank you for taking the time to come on here. And I really hope that people invest in this, because it's a very small investment with a really big impact. So I would encourage everyone to go ahead and read it. And a part of me was thinking, like, I don't know if we should maybe at the end of our episodes, if we should just read one or something, just to, then it's our once a week,
Uh-huh.
you know, and
Yeah.
maybe not the whole thing, because I don't want to give everything away, but just a portion from it, like a little nugget.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's
I
And
think that would be a good addition.
to go out and buy it. It's Black History Month, so go support a
Yes, we
author.
bliggity black this month,
Black
so
month and
yeah.
every month essentially, but bliggity black in the month of
yeah. And
February.
it's also on Kindle.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yes, so for all of our e-readers,
There you go. There's a book for you.
it's also on Kindle.
Yeah. And if anybody would be interested in professional development on culturally responsive teaching, mentor, microaggressions, anything, I can be contacted. You can reach me, and I'll come to your school and make it happen. So I just
Oh,
love
that's
sharing what I'm
awesome.
learning.
So then would that be through your other business?
Yes,
Can
through
you tell
all
us what
driving.
the all drive? So do you have a website?
Yes, yes, I
Oh,
do.
go ahead and drop that because I'm about to write it down too.
Yeah, no, that I love that. That's awesome. I can see you being a great resource for D&I. And so obviously, I know throughout this whole conversation, I feel like Chanel's taking the academic perspective. I'm just taking the leadership perspective because I think it all works. But But no, we will put it in our show notes, but it's thealldrivegroup.com. So thealldrivegroup.com. No,
Yes.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. That's awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome.
Well,
Well,
thank
thanks
you,
for
ladies, for having me. I had a great time, and hopefully I've inspired somebody and changed some mindsets, and hopefully they're rejuvenated for their parenting, teaching, coaching, whatever they do in life, that they got some fire back tonight.
absolutely. Well, thanks for tuning in to Brunch with Besties podcast. Until next time, peace.